Hi there, this is Dr. Embuddy with an introduction to Project 2. I try to do these videos to help you get started. Now, this week's topic is control, so we have loops and conditionals. And what we require you to do in this project is draw a bunch of pictures, which, it's like, oh, draw 10 circles. Well, that's a natural loop. We will also have specifications like, oh, circles have to be in a range of, they have to be bigger than 20, less than 100. So that now gives you if statements to have. So it's a mixture of control, and we have you drawing circles, we have you drawing rectangles, and then we have you checking to see that the specifications are within some range. One thing I'll say this many times is that always leave the checking of conditions, such as like, oh, the circles have to have a diameter between 10 and 100 or something. Always leave that to last. Get the rest of it working, and try to develop your project in stages. Many of the projects we have mirror tests, because this one is drawing pictures. It doesn't have that. So you won't have that to lean on. But let's start by taking a look at the project description, and then we'll do a little work on in Spider of the project itself. All right, so let's take a look at this. So what are we doing here in this? Well, there's a bunch of things written down here, but let me take you right to the pictures. You're going to draw a set of concentric circles, and before doing that, you will display some choices. And in this case, if you enter a 1, then you'll be drawing circles, and it says how many circles, and then there'll be error checking. Like, well, you can't draw a negative number of circles, so you then you keep asking until you get a reasonable number. Again, you do this part last, and then then you say how many circles are going to be drawn, and then it says enter a radius of the circles that's greater than 50, less than 200. All right, so we do 25. Hey, it's got to be between 50 and 200. 50 and 200. So now let's do 150, and we get the 8 circles drawn on top of each other. And you'll see a little bit of a notch here, and that's because there's an arrow that's part of the drawing. And I'll show you ways that you can hide that if you want. It's not required that you do so. And then the other choice is that a spiral of squares. Again, there's some, you can't draw 0 squares. And what it is what you're going to do with this is you're going to draw a square, then you're going to rotate a little bit, draw another square, rotate a little bit. If you look closely, you'll see a little bit of blue there, which is the arrow. And so you have to do a little arithmetic to take the number of squares that you have. In this case, there's 9 of them, and make a spiral of that. So that just that's just some arithmetic for you to figure out. It's not rocket science for that part. But what I suggest you do is start off small. So I started with a little bit of code here. Let me get rid of that to hide this a little bit. And a lot of times we import some modules. In this case, we have to import Turtle to actually do the drawing. We import time so that we can make this stay up, because what happens with Turtle is it draws the figure and then immediately disappears. On most operating systems, it varies. So sleep says to sleep for 2 seconds. It will just pause on this statement for 2 seconds, and then it goes on to the next one. And then I'm on a Mac, and there isn't a clean way for it to finish. And so the ugly way to get it to finish is to call the operating system command with an underscore. Got to have that underscore there. Underscore exit with a 1, and that will that will halt the program and actually restart the kernel. It's not very pretty, but it works. And then we have random. I'll show you how we do random in a moment. So one of the things you want to do is you know, try drawing something. So let's try a circle of 100, and let's draw that, and there it is, and you can see the little arrow there drawing it. Okay, so there was a circle of 100, waited 2 seconds, and then it disappeared. Let's you know, now one of the things we need to do is draw some colors. So let's pick some let's pick some colors to fill it with. And there's a turtle command, fill color, and there's 3, red, green, and blue, the regular parts of the color spectrum, and we call the random from the random package, we call the random function, which just generates a float. So that gives us 3 parts of the color done randomly. And now if I want to fill in the turtle, if I want to fill in the figure that I've drawn, we have a begin fill command and an end fill command. Now notice that there are parentheses there, empty parentheses. If you forget those, it won't work. Plain and simple. So don't forget them. You'll get a weird error message. So now what's going to happen is we're going to pick a random color. We're going to say whatever this thing I draw, I'm going to fill it with the color, draw the object, and as long as it's a closed figure, it will succeed in filling it with a random color. So we draw the circle, fills it in with a random color, waits 2 seconds, and notice that if I run this thing again, it will draw it and fill it with a different random color. Woohoo! Now, if I want to make the arrow go away and to not sit around and wait for it to draw, I can add 2 commands where I hide the turtle, that basically hides the arrow, and I speed it up. So let's try this again, and you see it just gives me an instant circle, waits my 2 seconds, and goes away. Now, we want to draw a bunch of circles. So let's put this into a loop. So let's go for I in range 5. Let's draw 5 circles. And notice we have to indent. Tab will do that. Or I can go up to the, slide this over a little bit. I can go up into Edit and indent. So I notice that there is a red X over here. That means that, and if I mouse over that, it says invalid sequence, and that's because I forgot the in. There we go. And in a moment it will go away, or you can hit save. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to draw 5 circles. Now that all happened pretty fast. Let me turn the speed off just by commenting that out. And let's try that again. We'll see it in slow motion. So it draws a circle, fills it in, draws another circle, fills it in, draws another circle, fills it in. You know, and that's not very that's not very interesting. So let's, instead of drawing a figure with 100, let's do 10 times I. So the I will get values from 0 up to 4. And so if that's going to start at 0, let's have it start at 1 and go up to 5. It'll only draw 4 circles there. And now let's see what happens. So it draws a little circle, a bigger circle, a bigger circle, a bigger circle. And notice how the bigger circle obscures the smaller circle. So one thing I can do is let's start at 5 and go down to 0, and we'll go by -1 each time. And what is that actually doing? Well, if let's play with it down here in range 5, print I, and that prints 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the values of I. Well, if I, using the arrow key there to do that, if I go from 1 to 5, then what does it print? It prints 1, 2, 3, 4, because you go up to but not including that value. And what I want to do is I want to go backwards. I want to start high and go low. So let's start at 5, go down to but not including 0, and let's go by -1 each time. And that way it starts at 5 and goes to 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I'm going to take those I's, that's the I's, and the diameter of my circle will be, or maybe it's the radius of my circle will be 10 times I. So this will start with 50, 40, 30, drawing them on top of each other so they won't obscure each other. So now we start with a big circle, and then we do smaller circles and smaller circles. And notice they aren't centered on each other, right? In our specifications, we ask you to center them. So that's one of the things you got to figure out. All right, I've shown you now how to draw a bunch of circles on top of each other. Now, one of the things that you have to do is center them. And now if I turn the speed back on, you'll see that, boom, draws them immediately or almost immediately. And that, you know, there's the drawing of circles. Now, the way this program is set up is you're going to actually draw some circles and then draw some rectangles. So let me comment this out. There's a little button there. It just makes a comment for all those. And let me also comment out the speed. Now, how do I draw a square? Well, it's got 4 sides. And one of the things we'll want to do is point in a certain direction, because remember, when I'm drawing the squares, where I starts at a different heading each time. So we'll start with the heading, and we'll play around with that, and we'll go forward. Let's go forward 50, and then we'll turn right 90. And guess what? I want to do that 4 times. And if I want, I can copy and paste that 4 times. And let's see what happens. And there it is. It draws a square. And again, it will disappear. And if I want to fill it, I can do the filling like I did before. But let's now take this whole thing and draw another square. Now, of course, this is about loops and writing loops, and you should do this as a loop as opposed to copy and paste. But I'm going to do the copy and paste and leave the looping for you. So I started with 90. Let's go 90 plus 45. You can do arithmetic in there, and that will draw the second square. So we draw one square, we rotate, and then we draw another square. So one of the things that you have to do is put a loop around this and play around with your headings so that no matter how many rectangles I specify, they all come out in a nice spiral. Let me show you one other thing here. Let me get that out of the way so I have a lot of room here. So what you are going to do is, let's back up. So we give you a file that has some turtle commands to play around with. But one of the things that I gave you is the set of strings that you can use. So let's go here. Let's look at the control of this thing. So there is a prompt, and let's print the choice. Let's save that. I'll call it control. Remember, always make sure you end with a .py. And all this is going to do is prompt for a choice and print it. Very simple. And I'll put in a choice of 2, and it tells me that I had a 2. Now, you might be best off dealing with this as integers. And so you can capture this, call it a string, and then convert it to an integer. So when we do the input, it reads into a string, and then I take that string, convert it to an integer, and I'll call that integer, and now I print it as an integer, and you'll see that it actually doesn't look any different than what I had before. But now I can create a Boolean here if I want. If choice int is greater than 2, print wrong. Else print, I'll use a tab here, print the value. So if I run this and say put in a 7, it prints wrong. If I run it and I print a 1, then it prints the 1. So I notice how, what did I do here? I built a Boolean there, Boolean expression that has a value of true or false, and that's what goes into my if statement. Then if I want to keep asking until I get a right answer, I can put this in a while loop. Again, I can come on down here, and I can either hit tab or indent. I now have a while loop that will loop forever, or I can, when I get the correct value, I can break. And so now if I run this, it says enter a value there. If I put in one that's too bad, it says wrong forever. Oops, this thing's going forever. A little red square up there will stop it. What happened here is that I forgot that the pattern is I prompt, I have a while, and then I better prompt again at the bottom with a new choice, otherwise it goes forever. So let's put a new choice in here. Oop, my indentation, let's fix that. Now we prompt, we have our choice, and then we prompt again. So now when it says, if I put an 8 in there, it says, oh, give me another choice. I can keep putting bad numbers in there forever. And now when I get a correct number, it will print the value and stop. There's actually a nicer way to do this. And can you come up with a Boolean there that is based on this that will keep asking for values and only accept a 0, a 1, or a 2. Try that out. So there is a way to check for some values. I'm going to comment that out. Let's make that go away for the moment. The other thing I want to do is have like I said, this is in many respects not the best way to do a loop. In fact, I think I'm just going to make it go away. There we go. So you'll need a while with some Boolean in there, so that you should have your choice int in that Boolean, and you want to quit when it is 0, or a better way to say that is that we keep going until the choice. All right, so your Boolean is based upon, okay, what is the condition that I keep going at? So you keep going until you get a choice of 0. So as long as you don't have 0, you keep going. And what do you do in here? Well, you're going to need a conditional where if they've chosen this to do circles, then we draw some circles. So all your drawing circle code goes in here. And then if they've chosen squares, then you'll draw your squares in here. And then at the bottom, we have to prompt again. Except that those have to be inside. So we have our pattern. You ask, you check, and then you ask again at the bottom. And in between, what do you have to do? If there's circles, then we draw some circle stuff. If there's squares, we draw some square stuff. Notice how I did my playing around of the drawing of, there, that's what I wanted. The drawing of the circles and squares in a separate program. And once I figured out how to do these, I'll copy and paste some of my, okay, so there's stuff about drawing circles. Well, once I've got it going, that will be what I'll paste in here. And same thing with my, I've got this stuff drawing squares. It should be done with a loop. I can then put that in here and drawing squares. So there's a structure of the program. There's some stuff about the turtle. Hopefully that gives you enough to get started. Good luck.